Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Nicholas Arizari, who is here on behalf of Align Wealth Advisors. Well, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Lisa. How about yourself?
Great, great. And, we've been talking a lot about retirement, and lots of us are thinking about it, or we may already be there. But evidently some things have changed, since COVID that they've changed?
Yes, there's a change made at the end of last year that was instituted at the beginning of this year that had nothing to do with COVID, but it set the stage for the COVID movements in March.
Oh, okay. So what are some of the things that we need to be prepared, or at least that we need to know about going forward?
Well, in the context of retirement planning, there are three major acts that have occurred since last year, the end of last year. The first one is what's called the Secure Act.
Okay.
The Secure Act had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with helping people in retirement. I like the Secure Act. I think it was a good move by the government to initiate. When I say I like it, being a financial planner, you look for things that help clients, And the Secure Act made the required minimum distribution age longer. Instead of a required 70 and a half distribution, now it's at age 72. Mm-hmm. So beginning of this year, it was initiated. You could wait until you're age 72 to take out a required minimum distribution, which is from a qualified plan, IRA, 401k, thrift savings plan, which is nice. And it also allowed people to contribute to their IRA after that required minimum distribution phase. So you're allowed to continue contributing to your IRA or 401k after age 72. It's a nice little feature.
Yeah. And, those couple of years, what's the difference in those 2 years? What makes the difference?
Two things, and this is a real important consideration from a retirement planning perspective. One is your assets are allowed to grow for another year and a half, right? So what I mean by that is there's no requirement to take money out. A lot of my clients don't really need the money. They're not planning on using it, and they're required to take it out to pay taxes. The IRS wants money to be taken out of these accounts to pay taxes. So you have another year and a half of accrual. Now, of course, there's got to be a balance to it. The other requirement, though, that the IRS has made is that if someone passes away and a non-spouse beneficiary inherits an IRA or a 401k or a thrift savings plan, they have to make that distribution all within 10 years.
I see.
All the money has to be spent within 10 years. Again, the IRS then gets paid the taxes on that distribution. It's a 1099 event.
Okay. Well, good to know. And like you said, that's an awesome feature that they've done. So there's something else that we need to take into consideration too, the CARES Act. I've heard a lot about the CARES Act from some of our supervisor and our assemblywoman. How does it actually help retirement planning?
Well, the CARES Act has done a lot of things to help with retirees. As you know, it's the Coronavirus Aid and Relief Act, right? It's very, very powerful. And the first thing is that it stimulated the environment for businesses, small businesses. The fabric of the United States economy is small businesses, despite what anyone believes. I know that the stock market is driven by large companies, but the fabric of the economy, not the stock market, is really driven by small businesses. And the CARES Act provided relief, financial relief for small businesses, and it created a paycheck relief program. It created extra capital, the ability to borrow money with a low interest rate. Of course, everyone knows about the Social Security check that people received. And it's been a lot of, relief for people who needed money and need to be conscious of keeping their business alive through this entire coronavirus scene.
Right. Okay. All right. And then the third one is the, what is it called? The HEALS Act.
Yes. Before I touch on this HEALS Act, I want to mention something, though, that relates to retirement planning besides stimulus package from CARES, and that is that the requirement of the distribution that the Secure Act provided, you can wait till age 72. In the CARES Act, the requirement of distribution was waived completely for even those that were over age 72. You could waive taking out your required minimum distribution in 2020. You didn't have to take it out at all. So what that meant for retirees, if they didn't really need the money to live on, is they were able then not to pay taxes because they didn't take the distribution out. How that really relates to financial planning is the hardest thing in retirement planning is paying taxes on money you don't need, taking money out of things or spending money on taxes on money you don't need. So this is a real relief for a lot of folks.
Absolutely.
Then came the HEALS Act. Now HEALS came on literally the heels of the CARES Act, but it doesn't stand for that. It's for the Health and Economic Assistance and Liability Protection Program. The HEALS Act is going to be another $1 trillion economic stimulus package. Again, small businesses, similar to what was introduced in this year, giving aid to people to stay alive through this COVID crisis. It's a really serious problem.
Mm-hmm. So is this $1 trillion on top of what was already given out?
Yeah, it's another additional $1 trillion. So I think it's important to know, some people say, oh, the stock market's been lifted up by the government plugging money into the market. It's not exactly like that. If money is circulated into the economy from the aid that the government is bringing to the table, that money can be used in a variety of ways. Again, to keep business alive economically, and also perhaps some extra spending dollars so that someone doesn't have to liquidate their securities in order to live, right? Their stock portfolio. So it does, in a way, help to sustain a stock market, but it's not really designed for that. It's designed to keep the economic conditions better and stable. And so it has worked. Granted, there are some folks that had to close their doors, but there's a lot of businesses that have been able to stay open because of this economic relief.
Okay. Well, good to know, because we don't always hear about these things. Not many people talk about them on, the television. So I'm glad that you were able to bring this to light, because many people probably don't even know that.
Yes.
So if people wanted to contact you, how do they go about doing that in order to talk to you more about these different types of acts?
Gosh, the new norm now, Lisa, as you and I are doing today, is to just work remotely. So folks can call us and we'll set up a Zoom meeting or a go-to meeting. If anyone who has a notebook computer with a camera can do that. We also have our doors open here. We're located at the Civic Center right here in Laguna Hills, and we do everything safely. We test, of course, for temperature, and we require masks and we require distancing. Our conference room allows us to keep and remain socially distant. The acts that have come about affect folks financially from a tax perspective, definitely from a cash flow perspective. Hey, what do I do now kind of thing. Another thing that's been really, I say, important is that when someone's forced to take out money within 10 years, it requires a plan. Hey, I just, my spouse just passed away, or a relative just passed away and left money. What do we do with this money? How do we best just take it out as a distribution and deal with the taxes and so forth? Requires planning. So comprehensive wealth management planning is something we offer folks right from the start. So they can contact me, they can call me here. It's 949-715-8585, 715-8585. And then we set up a time to talk more deeply about someone's circumstances and perhaps help them going forth in retirement.
It's always nice to see you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'd love to chat about this with folks who need help.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after this.